Hey gamers, welcome to the series called First vs Last. Today we are going to compare between the first Doom and Doom Eternal. Last doesn't necessarily mean the final game. It can also be the latest release in a game franchise. In this case, it's Doom Eternal. As far as I know, the Doomslayer's journey came to an end after the Ancient Gods Part 2 DLC. So we're gonna see how much different things are right now in these two games. There's a 27 years of long gap between them, and there has been a lot of changes since the first release of the amazing Doom series. Now before we start, I think it's good for you to know that this comparison is not really focused on graphics, because the last game will always have 10 times better graphics than the first one and will be much more detailed. So for Doom, I'm gonna divide the comparison into 5 categories: game mechanics, weapons and enemy types, level design, graphics, which is gonna be compared to a small degree, and sound design. Let's start by comparing the game mechanics of both titles. Back in the 90s, the first Doom was a simple FPS shooter where you are the Doomslayer and your job was to kill countless demons. The killing countless demons part haven't changed in the present Doom games, which is a good thing for us gamers. More action means more fun and more game journalists. In the first Doom, you have 5 difficulties to choose from and it's missing an Ultra Nightmare mode. However, in Doom Eternal, Ultra Nightmare is added and the "hey, not too rough" is removed. Maybe this line has become more sexualized right now, so they removed it. In Doom 1993, your aiming capabilities are limited. The environment is in 3D, but you can only move your reticle horizontally, so the aim is in 2 dimensions. Needless to say, in Doom Eternal, you can now aim like a normal human being. You also can't jump in Doom. In Eternal, you can do single or double jump, and you can also dash in any direction. On the other side, in Doom 1, you can sprint, and you can kinda mimic the dash if you don't keep sprinting all the time. Sprinting was removed in the later Doom games and the dash feature was added, and it's so much fun in general. You obviously shoot a lot of demons in both games, but in Doom Eternal the numbers of demons you face is much more than Doom 1. Doom 1993 didn't have any glory kill mechanic like Doom 2016 and Eternal, so you just casually shoot the demons until they die. Doom Eternal's automap has a huge difference over the old Doom. The automap has a 3D layout and has more significant details, where the automap of Doom 1 has little to no details, and you can also move the Slayer when you're in the map, which just feels a little odd. In terms of items and power-ups that you pick up, both Doom has medikits, armors, rat suit that protects you in irradiated zones, Berserk lets you punch or glory kill enemies, Supercharge in Doom 1 gives you 100% more health, while Mega Health in Doom Eternal gives you 200 health and armor. Doom 1 has a light amplification visor that lets you see in dark places, and Doom Eternal doesn't have that. Doom 1 also lets you become invisible like specters, but Doom Eternal doesn't have such thing like invisibility. Invulnerability is also not available in Doom Eternal, that is to negate any damage you take from the demons. Eternal has 2 additional items, and they are the Extra Life and the Dash Recharge. There's also 2 more power-ups. One is the Onslaught that quadruples your damage output, and Haste significantly increases your movement speed. Doom Eternal also has gun mods, suit upgrades and runes that is absent in Doom 1. Fairly enough, in both Doom games you get a variety of cheats to use to complete any level. In Doom 1993 there's no weak point mechanic, but in Eternal it's a major mechanic. For example, the Pinky Demon's weak point is its tail. One thing I really liked about the old Doom is the status bar phase, which changes depending on the number of situations Doom guy is in. Doom Eternal, however, don't have this feature. And now we're gonna take a look at the enemy variants and weapon models of both Doom. A lot of new enemies and weapons were added, and they also got evolved. Let's look at the enemies first, starting with the Imp. It looks like the Imp has lost a lot of muscle mass over the years and is a scrawny version now. I think the Imp started to get comfortable when other humongous, stronger demons made their way in the Doom universe. They both look identical to each other with their pointy bones and that facial expression. When close they melee you, and when you're far they throw fireballs at you. The classic zombie man goes hand in hand with the soldier in Eternal. In the first Doom this guy has green hair and a one-shot weapon in his hand. In Doom Eternal the green hair is gone and he uses a blaster. In terms of attacking, in the first title he only shoots you with his gun, but in Doom Eternal, besides shooting, he also melees you when you are close. Next is the Pinky Demon that has the same yellow eyes and an always open mouth. The only thing that's missing is its tail, which is present in Eternal. The first Doom just leaves you with a naked ass. They both have a good amount of speed and aggression when attacking and bites you when you're in their range. They have another invisible variant, Spectre, and it's the same demon but just invisible. The Kaku Demon. For too much depression, this meatball has lost his misleading grin in his face and has become a sad one now. In both Doom they bite you if you're near them and shoot lightning bolts at you when you're far. Lost Soul, one of the most annoying creatures in Doom, looks a lot similar in both cases. The only difference can be said is that the fire behind it in Doom Eternal stays blue when it's not aggressive and turns red when it starts to chase you, where in Doom 1, it stays red all the time. Baron of Hell's model has heavily changed in the latest Doom. Back in the 90s, Baron of Hell was a red, muscular, goat-legged demon who looked like he actually belongs in the hell. But now he's a cold, magma, dark-colored demon with red cracks. The goat leg is still there. When he attacks in Doom 1, he throws energy balls from range and uses his claw up close. In Eternal it's pretty similar, but he does an additional ground stomping move. The next one is the Cyber Demon, which is a bit confusing. Like in the old Doom he looks like this, in Doom 3 he looks like this, in Doom 2016 like this, then in Eternal he looks like this, and also he's renamed to Tyrant. But I think it's safe to say that the Tyrant of Eternal and the Cyber Demon of Doom 1 looks very similar. His abs has these red wires and blood, has one mecha leg and one organic leg, and also the face looks pretty similar. As far as attacking goes, Doom 1's Cyber Demon just shoots his rocket launcher and does no special move. In Doom Eternal, the Tyrant obviously shoots the rockets, but he also uses his right hand energy sword to slash and does a leg stomp attack up close. Doom 1's boss fight is the Spider Mastermind that goes hand in hand with the Spider Mastermind from Doom 2016, and Doom Eternal has Arachnotron that also looks like the smaller version of the Spider Mastermind. There were tons of other monsters added in Doom Eternal. A lot of them bear a resemblance to Doom 2. They really can't be compared to the monsters of Doom 1, so we're gonna move on to the weapon comparison right now. The Ultimate Doom has the pistol that we don't get in the Doom Eternal. It is possible to get the pistol by using Command Console, but you don't get it by default, so I will count it as a no. Now with the other similar weapons from both titles, I don't think there's much differences between them except the visual changes and the fire rate of the rocket launcher, so here's a side-by-side comparison of the same guns of both Doom. The chainsaw is in both games, but their mechanics is different. In Doom 1 you can use the chainsaw unlimited times, where in Doom Eternal you only get 3 charges of that, and you have to pick up the fuel item if you want to recharge it. But in Doom Eternal the chainsaw one-shots some monsters and the monsters drops a lot of ammo, where in Doom 1 you can't one-shot anyone, and also the monsters don't drop any ammo when killed. Just like the added monsters in Doom Eternal, you also get 4 more weapons: the heavy cannon, super shotgun, the unmaker, and the crucible. In Doom Eternal you have various mods for almost every weapon, and you most probably just use the mods for like 95% of the game. This change is just so profound. It's amazing. Another major change in Eternal is you can also use your suit's flame belch, grenade, and ice bomb along with your guns. In both games you can use your bare fist to attack the monsters, but the damage of your fist in Eternal is almost non-existent. For example, in Nightmare difficulty an imp dies to 6 to 7 hits in Doom 1, where in Eternal I probably hit an imp for like almost 50 times and it still didn't die. Now that we are done comparing the weapons and enemies of both Doom, we're gonna see how much the level designing has changed over the decades. Doom 1993's level design is a bit complicated in my opinion, where Doom Eternal feels more linear. Back in the 90s, waypoint system wasn't really a thing in gaming, and it's not a reason to blame a game at all. I'm just saying the waypoint system makes a game much more flexible and gives the player more choice to decide what to do next. In Doom 1993, it feels like you're dropped in the level blindfolded and you need to do a lot of exploring in order to find your possible destination. In Doom Eternal, the waypoint tells you where you need to go next, but still, I feel like even if there wasn't a waypoint in Doom Eternal, I could still find a way much easier than Doom 1. Doom 1's level sometimes feels like a maze. For example, the switches that open doors or works as an elevator can be hard to find, and even after you find a switch and you press it, you have to carefully look around to find what the hell happened. It doesn't blatantly show you like Doom Eternal. Let's compare the characteristics of a level first. As Doom 1 doesn't let you jump, the high grounds of a place is not a major concern. If there are elevated places in the levels, then it gives you a specific path like stairs or elevators to follow. In Eternal, there's a lot of high ground so that you can use your double jump to reach there and get better advantages over your enemies. Addition of monkey bars and climbable walls made Doomguy move like an ape in Doom Eternal. There's a lot of platforming to do in Doom Eternal, which wasn't really a major part in other Doom games. Doom 1 was just a simple monster shooting simulator. The levels of Doom 1 is comprised of hallways, switches and elevators, stairs, automated doors, dark places, the floor is lava, radiation pools, and mostly places like this on repeat. Explosive barrels are placed in almost every level for combat purposes. The levels also give you enough cover from enemies' line of sight. There's not much platforming involved in Doom 1. Sometimes you see a gap between some floors and you have to build some momentum to reach the other side of the floor. Other than that, the elevators do the platforming for you. There are new areas in the levels that are closed by red, yellow or blue doors, and you find keys to unlock those doors to move on to the next area in that level. In some levels you'll find traps and mostly a lot of switches that open doors or works as an elevator. The switches are sometimes hidden and can take some time and effort to discover. In Doom Eternal, every level has a fair amount of platforming, which includes jumping around like a monkey, climbing walls, avoiding different traps that almost dwindles the use of natural covers the level has. You'd often jump around and strafe just to avoid taking damage, which is really fun to do, but I am just comparing this technique with the first Doom game. Like Doom 1, you'll come across the floor is lava locations or radiation pools, and also there is additional purple goo, which is somewhat annoying as it doesn't let you jump. There's also more environmental traps in Eternal which requires good timing to pass through. Just like Doom 1, you collect keys from hard to reach locations and then move on to the next area of the levels. There's also a mini level separator that indicates a green crack symbol on some walls that gives you access to some necessary areas. The levels also have Slayer gates and secret encounters. So Doom Eternal has the same methodology of designing levels with some new additions. You're deliberately being said where to go next, where in Doom 1 it was one type of challenge to find it out yourself. Both Doom has the signature portals that allow you to navigate the levels more conveniently. Doom Eternal's portal looks different from the previous portal. Eternal also added boosters around the map to help you take high grounds, and there's just a really good amount of differences between the first Doom and the last Doom's levels. Before we move on, there's an honorable mention I'd like to add, which is in fact quite obvious, but in Doom 1 there's no dumb robot named Samuel Hayden, where in Doom Eternal,
the longer the icon of sin is on Earth, the stronger he will.
Next up is the graphics, which I'm saying again is not gonna be a major thing about this comparison. Because let's say if it was between Doom 2016 and Eternal, then graphics would be a really important category for this comparison. But we're talking about a game that's almost 3 decades old. There's a huge margin of difference between the graphics of both games. Everything has been wonderfully retextured and the graphics look so mind-blowing now. In Doom 1 the graphics were pixelated, but it was actually good for the time being. Weapons and monster models have changed a lot and you have seen the difference already. Doom 1993 was made with Doom Engine and Doom Eternal is made with ID Tech 7 engine. The last Doom 2016 was made with ID Tech 6, so that's how they're upgrading the engines. In Doom 1 there's not much graphic settings in the options as expected from a very old game, but one thing that surprised me was lowering the graphic settings doesn't really change anything. It looks like the same amount of pixels stays the exact same even if I lower the resolution. On the other hand, Doom Eternal has a lot of graphics options and lowering them doesn't change things too much, but if I lower the resolution, it becomes blurry and that's totally natural. So you see, there's nothing much to compare when it comes to the graphics of a really old game, so let's wrap it up with the sound design of both games. Doom Eternal's audio has changed hugely over the previous games. When it comes to comparing audio, I think the weapon sound should be the first major thing to compare. We have already seen the weapons side by side comparison, so I'll keep it short this time. The enemies in both Doom has their own unique death grunts, but it's more audible in Doom 1 because in Doom Eternal you mostly just blast up the total enemy, which does not play any death grunts. Although the glory kill has the grunt of a monster dying, but we can't really compare that because Doom 1 doesn't have a glory kill mechanic. Here's some example of the death grunts in Doom 1. I also didn't hear any grunt of the Slayer when he dies in Doom Eternal, but Doom 1 has the grunt playing every time you die. And also when you quit the game. Doom 1's audio was really good for the time being, with an ample amount of details necessary to make a game really good. Like the game gives you audio cue of monsters growling from a specific area to make you realize where to move next or where the next potential enemies can be. As waypoint wasn't a thing that time, this was a good helping hand for navigation. Doom Eternal is released so late after Doom 1 that now the expectation is just so high, and Doom Eternal obviously delivered it. The audio cue I've talked about isn't really necessary in Eternal, as the levels aren't really made like that, and also the map and waypoint is just so much better now that the audio details are somewhat trivial. Monster sounds were created from animal noises in Doom 1993, where Eternal feels like they didn't put much effort to the monster noises except placing some audios on the glory kill animations. Doom games are well known for their techno death metal style of soundtracks. In Doom 1993, the music sounds like 90s metal music, and Eternal music sounds like the modern day metal. I don't really know that much about metal, but in Doom Eternal the soundtrack is just extraordinary. Also, the music wouldn't just play on repeat, but it adapts to the situation player is in. Like if you're in combat, the music will switch to death metal, but when you're out of combat, a serene type of music plays. Doom 1993 plays the same music over and over again without any additional music. So it can be said that Doom Eternal's music has improved a lot. And that will be the end of this episode of First vs Last. If you enjoyed, make sure to subscribe for more detailed comparison like this, and I'll see you in the next one.